What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. This is Hawk Talk on Melrose as advertised. We said on the last episode we will be back on the mic whenever there is breaking news. At that time, we did not know that Kadyn Proctor was even considering Iowa or even leaving Alabama because this was on Tuesday night when we recorded last. But here we
Yeah.
are, Saturday, and Kadyn Proctor is officially a Hawk. Huge, huge, huge news for Iowa. One person is not going to change the offense, but it's a step in the right direction. And there was one area that was really bad, and that was the offensive line the last few years. And bringing him in is massive for us. So I got Tyler here. We're recording this during the Iowa basketball game. Unfortunately, it's not looking too good against Purdue, but we're going to try to make this quick. And yeah, I'm pumped. I'm so happy about this.
Yeah. Just instant reaction. Obviously, great for the offense, but also just like this is actually like there's a glimmer of hope this offseason with something positive happening,
Yep.
right? As we've been talking about the kind of the lack of urgency with the offensive coordinator position, and just we haven't had any transfers come in up until this point. And so obviously just massive news, especially, yeah, like you said, a position group that I feel like really, really needed it. And it wasn't even, like you said, wasn't even a thought in my mind um, until really like Nick Saban retired and you see all these transfers and then you hear like, well, maybe he might come back home. But you never want to put too much stock into that because like you said, it's just hopeful, wishful thinking. And for it to see it or to see it come true actually is unbelievable.
Yeah, I guess the first thing is going back to just the last year when, he was committed to Iowa and at the last second, he decommits. And I think that's where like Iowa fans were really annoyed by what he did. It wasn't so much that he was like decommitting to Iowa, it was the fact that he kind of waited until the last possible second. And it was kind of like we were kind of then at that point screwed because we couldn't go out. At that point, it was too late to go after anybody else.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think that's where a lot of fans were mad, but you have to give props to the coaching staff for not burning that bridge with Kadyn. I thought Tyler Barnes did his presser last year when he was just saying, I wish him all the luck. I texted him, I texted his parents, wished them all the luck down in Alabama. And,
Yeah.
things like that. It goes a long way because they were playing the long game because I think everybody kind of had that itch, especially probably the coaching staff, that maybe down the road with this whole transfer portal and with Iowa's NIL actually being decent, that maybe there will be a chance down the road. Maybe not after the first year. I don't think they really thought maybe after 1 year, but I think they thought that, maybe the last couple of years of his college career, he'll come back to Iowa. And so they did an unbelievable job of not burning that bridge, keeping in contact, wishing him luck. I remember this last fall, there were some Iowa fans tweeting because this was towards the beginning of the season when Proctor was struggling a little bit. There were some Iowa fans tweeting stuff, and I remember Tyler Barnes quote tweeted one of the fans and
Yeah.
kind of was said some stuff like, "Hey, he's a young guy, he's gonna be good." And it's those small little things that goes a long way. So that's number one for me. Um, if you go back and you look at Kadyn Proctor, freshman at Alabama, there was some ups and downs with him, but dude, if you start as a freshman at Alabama under Nick Saban in the SEC, all 14 games he started, that's really good. And yes, there's going to be some ups and downs. There's going to be times where you might not look great, but if you start all 14 games, there must be something that the coaches see. And as the season went on, he actually started getting better and better. And you go to that Georgia game, that was his highest graded PFF graded of the season. And that was against Georgia in the SEC championship game. So
Yeah.
struggles early, but he definitely got better. And once again, coming to Iowa, he's going to be the best offensive line that we have.
Yeah.
When practice start, when the games start, he's the best offensive lineman. And when you talk about, having to go up against some of these big boys like Ohio States of the world, you need guys like Kadyn Proctor on the offensive line.
Yeah. You bring up a couple of good points there, Collin. I think maybe at that moment, us Iowa fans and myself included, obviously, like you said, it was more the timing than anything, right? Because then it didn't allow us to try to go out and find the next offensive lineman that maybe we needed. But you're exactly right. They, a guy like Tyler Barnes took emotion out of it and he said, you know what? It's his decision. Wish you the best of luck. And from what we've read and what we've seen so far, obviously a lot of the coaches have stayed in close contact with him throughout the season. I've read that even when he was struggling, they were texting him, "Hey, you'll get through it. You're all right." And so just not ruining those relationships. And I'm not saying like those relationships were fake just because they wanted him to come back to Iowa. I'm sure they're genuine. It's like I'm sure they are cheering for the kid, obviously. An Iowa kid, they want him to do good. But
Yeah.
yeah, with the way the transfer portal works with the NIL, with just being able to essentially transfer, especially for the one time, like whenever and wherever you want, they met you, like you said, maybe they were playing the long game of like, hey, this could be a potential return down the road. Might not be right now. And like you said, maybe they didn't think right away after the first year. But I mean, it just so happened, obviously, Nick Saban retires and it kind of probably sped up that process a little bit faster. Just you see all the Alabama transfers. I mean, there's a lot of them. And obviously when you commit to Alabama, yeah, you commit to Alabama, but you're really committing to Nick Saban, like one of obviously the greatest coach in the history of college football. So when he's done, it's like, well, all right, this isn't the same reason why I committed in the first place. And it's just good to see, obviously, he calls this place home, and I'm just glad this process was quick and obviously, he's here and I think he's at the basketball game today. And it's just, it's crazy because it's like, I never would have thought this would have happened. But yeah, to get a guy like him, a former 5-star, just, I mean, it's huge. I don't even know. I don't even
It
have the
did.
words.
It did. It happened very quickly. He started on like Wednesday. It was announced there was rumors that he was going to go into the transfer portal, and then a couple hours later, he was officially in the transfer portal. And then there was crystal balls, and I think we all felt very confident that it was going to be Iowa. But you always have to be kind of on guard because in the transfer portal, it can get very messy very quickly. You got other teams calling,
Anyone
and
could swoop in with
you
a
never
check.
know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And so, but I think we all felt pretty confident. And then today, obviously, with the official word. So as we move forward into next year, what does this all mean? Like I said at the beginning, just because he comes to Iowa is not going to solve all the problems of this Iowa's offense and how bad it is, but it's the step in the right direction. And I think a lot of people, maybe non-Iowa fans, are probably looking at this situation and be like, why in the hell would this guy go from Alabama to Iowa, who has been the worst offense in college football? Why would he go to Iowa in the first place? And there's obviously reasons, he wants to be back at home, but maybe he wants to come to Iowa to get this thing figured out, and he can be one of the guys that helps get this thing turning in the right direction. So you look at the offensive line next year. He's a day one starter as long as he stays healthy. He's going to be the left tackle, and at that point, then at the right tackle position, you have two options. You have Mason Richmond or Jennings Dunker. Now, according to PFF, Jennings Dunker actually was a better tackle than Mason Richmond. So I don't know who they will go with, but one of those two guys, whether it's Jennings Dunker or Mason Richmond, will be the right tackle. I like that. And then the other guy will essentially go into guard play. Jennings Dunker was a guard before he went to tackle, and Mason Richmond actually played some guard back in 2020 during the COVID year. So they both have experience. So one of those guys will either be guard, the other guy will be tackle. And at that point, you have the two other positions, and that's kind of Connor Colby, who's a pretty good offensive lineman, and then Logan Jones at center. That's a pretty solid offensive line. That's something that you can work with now. And that's where, you look at this offense. Now we still don't have an offensive coordinator. It's January 20th, but you have something to work with. Our offense, there's so many problems with it, right? There's so many things of why this offense is so bad. But one of the reasons is the offensive line has been horrible the last few years. You can essentially, at this point now, with getting Kadyn Proctor, you can almost kind of check mark one of the problems off the list. And now then you can get to the next problem. And so that's huge. That is massive. Like, that's something that you need. And that's where I said, step in the right direction. It's not going to solve everything, but step in the right direction. And finally, as long as we stay healthy at the offensive line, something that I'm looking forward to actually seeing a well put together offensive line, starting with obviously a guy from Alabama that started, once again, all 14 games, was in the college football playoff. SEC championship game. It's massive.
Well, you know who's the most happy? Cade McNamara.
Yep, exactly.
That guy, like we've mentioned a million times, he's been injury prone. Would we say I felt like our offensive line was getting better as the year went on, but obviously not great, up and down to say the least. And you address one of several issues on the offense, but it starts with the offensive line, Collin. The run game, the play action
Yep.
game, the pass game, everything, protecting Cade, making sure he stays as clean as possible starts there. And we got to get better on the offensive line. And Kadyn Proctor is, well, the best you can probably do there. I mean, he was I think number 2 transfer in the whole portal
Yep.
or something like that. I read, and obviously, former number 1 tackle coming out of high school. I mean, yeah, he struggled at Alabama. If you struggle at Alabama, okay, like I don't
I
think
don't want to struggled at times. I don't.
yeah.
He definitely there was.
In
I mean,
his words, he was saying he played bad but no, and that's the thing. There were moments where obviously he didn't play his best, but I think he played his best when it mattered the most. Like you said, SEC championship, one of his best games. And yeah, when you're playing against a lot of talent down in the SEC, yeah, you're going to get challenged, and you're a young guy, right? Like
yep.
I'm sure it's okay to not play your best when you're a freshman, and like you said, to start and play for Nick Saban as a freshman. I mean, that's really impressive. So I'm not too worried with him coming to Iowa. That's for sure.
It's easy to say this now because we have him now, but this is probably the best case situation if you really think about it. Because if he would have ended up coming to Iowa last year, who knows if he even would have started this year, right? And we essentially get a guy now that has
Yeah,
played in 14 games in the SEC under the
100%.
GOAT in college football for the coaching staff and Nick Saban. And so this is probably the best situation that you could ask for. Now, like I said, that's easy to say it now.
Yeah,
I think last year at this time, if you didn't
right.
know, it would, it sucks. But if you would have told me like last year, hey, he's just going to go to Alabama for 1 year, he's going to get things figured out down there. He's going to start. He's going to be, and he's going to
Yeah,
come back to Iowa. You know, I would be like, okay, like obviously I want him this year, but maybe that is the best case. And now it definitely is. And
yeah,
so it's huge. It really is huge. So as we kind of move forward now, I don't think Iowa is done in the transfer portal. I think Iowa will still get a few more guys. And for me, once again, offensive line now taken care of. So now you look at some other positions. I still think we desperately need a wide receiver. We have guys there. We have some talent there. But behind Caleb Brown, behind Seth Anderson, there really isn't much after that. And so
yeah.
it'd be
Not with
huge to go out.
experience,
Yeah, with
anyway.
experience
Yeah,
is what I mean. We have some potential. There's some guys that are
yeah,
young, but I would just like to go out, get once again an X position wide receiver, 6'3", 6'4", can stretch the field. Would love that. I saw Iowa State actually just got a guy from Army, and he's like a taller guy, like a 6'4". And someone like that, right? That has experience. I would love that.
yeah,
So that I still wouldn't mind getting a quarterback, just because you can never rely on Cade at this point. And then on the defensive side, I wouldn't mind maybe getting another corner. Obviously, I like our 2 corners in Jamari and Deshaun Lee, but it never hurts to have another guy that can step up, or even during a game if you
yeah,
want to go to nickel or something. So, but I don't think we're done yet. And props to the Iowa Swarm for raising like over $100,000 in one day. That's absolutely unbelievable. That was just crazy. I think that day, like Brad Heinrichs or something said something on the message boards. He's like, "Hey guys, I really need your guys' help. We got some things coming up that, obviously one being Kadyn
yeah.
Proctor, but I think other things too." And he's like, we all need to get involved. And I was blown away that many. I was like, holy shit. So that was huge. And it kind of goes to show, like, people can say what they want, but like I really think our NIL, our Swarm, because of Brad Heinrichs and what they are all doing, it's been massive so far for Iowa. I mean, ever since kind of this whole NIL kind of started, nothing but good things for Iowa. And I'm just glad we have him, because now in this day and age, you can be left in the dust if you don't have a good NIL program. And I think so far Iowa has a really good one. And it's helped get guys like Kadyn Proctor. It's helped keep some guys that could easily go to the NFL. And I think so far this offseason, obviously it would be nice to have a offensive coordinator, but I think so far this has been like an A+ offseason if you really think about it. I mean, there really hasn't been anything that has really sucked. I mean, maybe Cooper DeJean go to the NFL, but I mean, that was kind of expected. But to bring back so many guys that could go off, and then getting Kadyn Proctor, who you said is a second-rated transfer. I mean, how much better can you get? Now, once again, yes, we do need to get an OC. We need to get that figured out. But I think it's been like an A+ offseason.
100%. And real quick, something I think we could mention on here, obviously, when you talk about how important the transfer portal and NIL is with guys like Kadyn Proctor and other transfers, you know, a big part of it, I think, too, is obviously Beth Getz, and she, you know, becomes the full-time AD. And from day one, she's been super accepting of NIL and transfer portal, unlike Mr. Gary Barta, previous AD, who
horrible.
Yeah, didn't seem like he really wanted to be kind of involved with that, or really take it, I don't know, as seriously as obviously it really should be. And you know, I think she did a great job of accepting it. And obviously, I mean, now that she's here, I think, you know, sky's the limit with that.
I know. I'm glad you brought up Beth Getz, because that was another big thing that happened over the past couple of days, is her becoming a full-time AD, which was expected too, but still huge, because everything she's done so far, man, like not one complaint from her. No. And it's been
A+ job for her.
Yeah, it really is. So
seriously,
all I was gonna say is the future is bright for Iowa, and especially I'm talking really football here. And I'm excited to see how this thing kind of moves forward. I really hope we can get that OC figured out here shortly. And but all I'm saying is I'm feeling a little bit better today than I did 4 days ago, because getting Proctor is huge. And I'm still kind of annoyed by the whole OC thing, but this kind of helps it a little bit, right? And so, but
I'm saying there's at least a little glimmer of or hope, and just obviously it provides that excitement for all of us fans that, you know, like you said, landing a guy like him is one of many issues that, you know, or steps in this offseason that we want to accomplish. But it's a big one. That's for sure.
For sure. So that will do it for this episode. Short and sweet and to the point. Once again, we'll be back whenever more breaking news comes out. And until then, have a good rest of your weekend. Tyler, you have a good week, and go Hawks.